Gregg Rosenthal from NFL Network on the Browns' starting quarterback position and who he thinks it can be.
I think Joe Flacco will win the job, and my main reason is just watching how Kenny Pickett has handled his last two opportunities. The film does not lie, and you look at two organizations in Pittsburgh and Philadelphia who both need quarterbacks, who essentially gave up on Kenny Pickett. So we know what Joe Flacco can do. He can play at a credible level. He went 4-1 with the Browns before. When the Steelers traded Kenny Pickett just a few years ago, all they had to do was move down from the third to the fourth round in order to do so. Last year, the Eagles essentially gave Kenny Pickett away. So if we're going to spend this whole offseason saying Howie Roseman is the best general manager in the game, and they could certainly use a good backup at a low price, and he basically decided to give Kenny Pickett away because Tanner McKee is a better quarterback than him, then ultimately I think Joe Flacco is going to be a better quarterback than him, and Shedeur Sanders will wind up being a backup or a third-string quarterback.
I wonder if he can tell me the lottery numbers tonight. I get what he's saying relative to Kenny Pickett. You could also say that Joe Flacco couldn't beat out Anthony Richardson. He was given the job in Indianapolis, and they moved back to Anthony Richardson, who hasn't played well. Let's welcome in Jake Burns from BrownsFilmBreakdown.com. Jake, there's not a clear cut, this guy is the guy. I do think it'll probably be either Pickett or Flacco.
Yeah, I have a hard time envisioning that you're going to start one of these rookies right out the gate. I think that based on the history of Joe, him making it 17 games feels pretty rare. Even if he's the starter, right? He has not been able to do that sort of thing in a long time. And sometimes it's not self-inflicted. It's just the play either sort of tapers out, it goes on a hot streak, and then things kind of maybe go cold, and that forces the hand to maybe, like you had mentioned there with Anthony Richardson, we're going to put him back in. I just think the days of Joe Flacco playing 17 games and doing so at a above average to high level feel like a sort of bit of the past there. So it's not that I don't think that he can. It's just that it's like the recent data tells us that's not something that's going to happen. So, Pickett, I've felt relatively comfortable in saying I don't believe in the decision they made to bring him in, other than if it's a timeline-based thing and you really wanted some sort of a quarterback who had a starting presence and we didn't know if we were going to get to Flacco. Maybe he wasn't going to sign. Maybe there was a thought he might retire. So you made that move to have some veteran presence, or at least a guy who has started some games in the NFL before the draft. But then obviously you get a green light from Flacco. So it's a little hard without being inside the walls of Berea to know the decision-making timeline on some of that stuff. But to the point Greg was just making in that clip, like, I don't really envision Kenny Pickett being the answer here. But I also think there is a desire to play a veteran of some capacity. So he's going to get a chance to compete with Flacco to start the year. And as we know, those first 6 games on the schedule are pretty daunting. So is there a world where one of those two rookies between Gabriel and Sanders has a lights out training camp and, really solves things in a very serious way? Yeah. I mean, like that's happened in the history of the league, right? You don't have to look too far back in the history of things to figure out that there have been some third round guys that have figured it out. And even Brock Purdy, as a 7th round Mr. Irrelevant, found some success by the end of his rookie season to give himself a chance to start, right? So it's not impossible, but like to start the year, I know that's what most people are concerned about. It's looked like everything I have seen that Flacco is a leg up on all of this. He was around in 23. He's been around Kevin before. The offense, they are trying to really kind of put themselves back in a position to run. So naturally, Joe has seen a lot of ball. The arm is still alive, and he knows the offense. It's no surprise that he would be ahead of everybody else right now. So that's where I think Flacco starts the year. But I do think as the year wears on, based on ample evidence we have, both of these rookies will probably find a chance to play. And we'll see which one steps up to the plate and maybe capitalizes on that opportunity. So it's not the greatest quarterback scenario to be in, but they're trying to just piece together some answers here, and we'll see what they come up with.
They're trying to find competent quarterback play. And the way I look at it, you got 4 chances, so we'll see.